And what is up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 162 of the Designated Players Podcast. We're back with another top 10 list as we dive back into the history books and pick our top 10 goalkeepers in MLS history. If you watched our last top 10 list, you know this is about to get fun. So sit down, strap in, because I think this one is going to get even more heated. Connor, how are you doing and how badly did you mess this up?
I am not feeling great today. I think this list well, first of all, you're never going to be able to make anybody happy on a top 10 list. But this goalkeepers one is going to be even worse because it is so up in the air.
Yeah, like I said, I think there's a split between like your top five and your bottom five, and then maybe some honorable mentions can get thrown in, and then there's the rest. But between those five, I think it'll be tough if we get one in the same spot.
We'll do our best.
I mean, I'll do my best. You'll be wrong, but I'll do my best to get it right. Before we go into anything, of course, I need to know what scarf you're rocking, and then I need to guess which player it refers to and where you have.
I think it's obvious which player it refers to, but I will not tell you where I have them. But I have brought out the Chicago Fire scarf.
Ooh. Oh, I like that one. I remember that one. That's a nice one.
It is a really nice scarf.
This one, my scarf for me, it was actually hard because I have scarves that relate to one, two, three, pretty much all of them. But I had to go with the one, the only, because the when we talk about the GOAT and the best goalkeeper of all time, I actually have his signature on a scarf. So, spoiler alert. But I got my Luis Robles signed New York Red Bull. New York is red. Fortress run with a scarf, which you see in pretty much every post that we make with our predictions. It's the picture that I have for me. So everybody's seen this scarf multiple times. And like I said, when you talk about the GOAT, you have to rep the GOAT. So that's what I did. Do you want to start with your honorable mentions?
Yeah, as I'm making changes right now because I can't land on anything. I just keep making changes. But yes, I've listed four honorable mentions for my list. I mean, there's a number of people that could also be honorable mentions, but I just picked these four. I've gone with Tim Melia, obviously, excellent goalkeeper. Was a goalkeeper of the year. Probably days are numbered, I would say, in terms of playing. But fantastic career. I've got Matt Reese as an honorable mention, another fantastic goalkeeper. Surprisingly, so I know he has, I guess, a trophy, or he won a trophy with the Galaxy, but I don't believe he was playing. I think he was the backup. Well, actually, I think he split time. Never mind. Ignore that.
Good
Other
thing you can
honorable
edit.
mention. Yeah. Other honorable mention. I've put Bill Hamid.
Oh
Mate.
my god.
Yep. Yep. I
Oh.
listen. Early days DC Bill Hamid was really good, and I don't think you could deny that.
Yeah, I
Late
can.
days Bill Hamid, you can have an argument with, but he was a goalkeeper of the year, and during that, I guess like early 2010 stretch was really good. And then the last honorable mention I have is Stephen Fry, obviously Seattle goalkeeper, Toronto goalkeeper for a bit too, has won a lot with Seattle and has been an excellent keeper and one of, I would say, the most clutch keepers with some of his excellent saves in those MLS Cups that he has won.
I didn't even bother analyzing Bill Hamid. Oh no, yes I did. Damn, I should have left him out. Bill Hamid was only good when he played Red Bull, so I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, is that what it was? That feels a little anecdotal that you're dunking on Bill Hamid. It's just all, oh well, he was really good against Red Bull, so I can't like
Yes, I can. This is my podcast. I can do whatever the frick I want.
him.
I had to catch myself there because we are a family friendly podcast.
This may not be a family friendly episode.
It may not be. I've got two. One of them was Stephen Fry. Mainly because of his slow start to his career. He came on a little bit later than others. And then the other one I put in was Donovan Ricketts, two-time goalkeeper of the year. However, zero other goalkeeper of the year nominations. So it wasn't like he had 2 wins and then a second place and a 2 third places. It was two, and then he was non-existent for the others. He also is one of my least favorite goalkeepers of all time.
Yeah, I
So
remember you don't like
I
him.
know we've gone through this before. If you're new, go check out. I think we've done an episode similar to this in season 1. I don't have the number on me, but Donovan Ricketts' ability to hold any shot, no matter how fast or what direction it comes to him at, is equivalent to my dog being able to speak Spanish. Like, it doesn't exist. He could not catch a ball to save his life. It bothered me as a young goalkeeper, so he instantly became one of my least favorites. However, the other thing was those goalkeeper of the years. One of them came um, when he was a part of that LA Galaxy super team. Only once has he ever had to make more than 100 saves in a season. So that also weighed into that. So he also has a middle of pack save percentage at 69. Nice. 0.6 save percentage. So that also brought him down a little bit. So that brought him out of my list.
That are you looking at like his total career save percentage?
Yes, yeah. I'm looking. So I guess before we dive into this, some things that we should talk about. My stats include all playoffs and regular season, not including Champions League or Open Cup. So that's where my stats come from. Also, when I mention something like he was a top 5 at this category, it is of the 30 players that I picked in my short list. It's not of all time. There are people who might have better stats there, but it's just of the 30 that I looked at.
Got it. I guess while you're describing your criteria, I'll go over mine really quick because I put a lot of time into it, so I want to talk about it. Um, but I went season by season, and obviously, as this is an objective, an opinionated decision here, I rated my top 10 goalkeepers by season, gave them a points amount depending on where I ranked them, and then I gave out points depending on if they won Supporter Shield, MLS Cup, Goalkeeper of the Year, or in the one case, MVP. If they were an MVP finalist, I also gave a point, and then summed up all the points together, and then made my decision based on that
Jesus,
because I because I have nothing else to do, and
get a life, nerd.
yeah,
God dang. That
but I
makes that
enjoyed
makes
it.
me
I
look
enjoyed it.
normal.
I enjoyed it. All right,
Good for
let me
you.
have
That's
my fun.
awesome. That's good. I like that.
It's all opinionated though, so
If you if you could
my
if you
number
could
one
just put
maybe.
if you could just put that sort of effort into the book that we're going to be writing, we might actually have a bestseller on our hands.
I do put that. My notes are fantastic.
Yeah, I haven't seen them yet.
You haven't, and you won't.
All right, because you put so much time and effort into it, give me your number 10.
Okay, here we go. Number 10, Luis Robles.
Fair. I'm okay with
Yeah,
that. I'm
I
okay with that.
honestly I almost didn't put him. I almost had him as an honorable mention, but if he was going to be an honorable mention, he would have been number 11, as kind of between him and Stephen Fry. Robles has phenomenal stats when it comes to wins and clean sheets, and I think and his obviously 3 supporter shields was I think the highest on my list. I mean, I only gave them the points if I put them on my top 10 list, so I may have missed like an occasional supporter shield or cup for someone. But it's likely that they probably didn't play much if they did win it. But Robles having 3, I believe, was the highest on my list, which should definitely be considered, especially because supporter shield, unless we're talking about Atlanta, is the more important trophy. He also had a goalkeeper of the year, although I will say that I don't think it was the strongest year from a goalkeeper that year. But at the end of the day, he has a goalkeeper of the year. He rated pretty good in points for me. Points wise, he was outside the top 10, but considering he had a few less seasons than some other people, and considering how many trophies he won, I bumped him in there at the 10 spot.
I am not going to go too deep into it because I have him a little bit later on. Um, there is something there that I think you may have overlooked. One of the things that I held with a little bit more weight is over the time that they were in the league, how long were they at the top? And I'll explain that kind of as I get into it. So my number 10 is somebody you put in your honorable mentions, Matt Reese. So New England, LA Galaxy, 15 years in MLS, won an MLS Cup, Supporter Shield twice as a member of the very strong 2000 Galaxy team, whether he was, splitting time, all time, sometime, whatever. US Open Cup in 07 with New England, which he definitely was a part of. 309 total games, middle of the pack in clean sheet percentage. Over his 84 clean sheets, it gave him a 27.8 percentage. So that's 16th out of the 30 that I looked at. Does have a 20% PK save rate. Pretty cool. 7th in total saves and 5th in saves percentage is what bumped him into that category for me over the likes of Ricketts or Fry. So it's not like he had a high save percentage with no shots on him. I mean, he was seeing lots and lots of shots, making lots and lots of saves. So the big thing was how often were they in that goalkeeper of the year voting, runner up, third place, whatever. So he did have 2 runners up, 2 third places, and a 4th place. But because he never got himself the award, and his save or his clean sheet percentage was kind of it knocked him down a little bit for me. But he is one of my favorite goalkeepers in MLS, so I'm happy I could get him on the list there. But I think 10 is a good spot.
I knew you would get him on the list because you've said before that he is one of your favorites, and I know
There's no bias in this
you're
list.
just gonna put your favorites on the
There's
list.
no
I already
bias
know.
in this list.
I'm waiting for one name to go on this list, and then we're gonna have some stark debate on that one.
I will let you go to 9 then.
All right, 9, a guy you've mentioned before. I got Donovan Ricketts there.
Ugh.
I know you don't like Donovan Ricketts, but he's got 2 supporter shields, MLS Cup, 2 goalkeeper of the years, just from the seasons that I included him in my top 10 list. He was on my top 10 list for 5 seasons, which is it was the lowest amount of seasons for anyone on my list. So he had really good like points per season that he was included. I don't think Ricketts is one of the, I mean, he's definitely lower on this list for a reason. I think his numbers are definitely not as strong as the others, whereas I think a lot of the people ahead in this list can be flipped around in a lot of places. I feel like he's just outside of that. But considering how much he won in terms of individual awards and team awards, I think I had to just sneak him in at the bottom of my list.
I've already talked about my thoughts on that, so I will let it die there. I'm trying to figure out which one you're waiting for. At number 9, I have Tony Meola. 2000 MVP season was the single best MVP season in MLS history. We agree on that. We've talked about it.
Not agree on that.
We totally agree on it. I've convinced
No.
you. If anybody doesn't believe me, it's okay. You can believe me. He was pretty average outside of it, right? In 11 years with MLS, both KC and the Red Bulls or Metro Stars, we know he won MVP and MLS Cup. He was also a mainstay in the U.S. men's national team, attending 4 Gold Cups, winning 2 of them, going to a Copa America, and going to 3 World Cups, winning none of them, surprisingly enough. Over 273 MLS games in those 11 or so years, 21st out of 30 in clean sheet percentage, 71 total, but 2nd out of 30 in save percentage at 73.3, bested only by Casey Keller in a much shorter time here. But that's also accompanied by 5th out of 30 finish in most saves at 1,232. He also had one of the higher most saves in a season rate at 164 in one season. However, he never saved a penalty, so that kind of stinks. His sole goalkeeper of the year was accompanied by 1 third place vote. So again, not the top of the top all the time, but very good generally overall. Like, he wasn't a showstopper. He wasn't the top guy, but he was consistently very good. He kept the ball out of the net. He did his job. So that plus the best MVP season in MLS history bumps him to 9.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably save my thoughts on that one, not to spoil much, but
Ooh, okay.
Should we go to 8 then?
Let's go to 8. Go ahead.
All right, at 8, I have got friend of the pod, John Bush.
Why
In
is
the
Go ahead.
what?
Go
What?
ahead. Go ahead.
Uh, so he was in my top 10 goalkeepers for 10 seasons, which was it's the third highest amount on my list. So he was consistently in and around the best goalkeepers, a few times at the top of my list. 2 supporter shields in those 10 seasons and 1 goalkeeper of the year as well. Based on his numbers, seemed like a really good shot stopper. He had good save percentage. He would get faced with a lot of shots on target, but again, as a result, would make a lot of saves per 90. One of the things that did knock him down my list a little bit was the clean sheets. He was a little bit lower in the clean sheets on based on guys I was comparing around the same range. And I guess that's about it. Yeah, not too much else to add there. I mean, in terms of points, because he was on the list so many times, his points per season that I included him was a bit lower. So while he was in the top 10, it seems like he was, in terms of my list, was more so middle of the pack on a lot of those seasons. I know he had a few seasons where he was at the top of the list, hence the goalkeeper of the year as well. But um, obviously, very good across a long career. So
What I was saying as I reacted to your pick is why is number 8 always the one that we share? Because John Bush is also my number 8.
wait, was that what happened last time we did
That
top tens
was
also?
Who was it? I don't know. You're gonna have to go watch the episode to find out. Um, it was another it was another crew player, actually, wasn't
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
it?
I won't spoil it because you got to go listen to
That's
it
right.
to
You got to
find
go
out.
listen, or go check it out on TikTok or YouTube or wherever. It's there. Um, yeah, like I said, 14 years. Columbus, Chicago, San Jose, and one really interesting transfer story from TFC. Another one you should go check out. We interviewed John Bush. Great story. Um, 2 Supporter Shield, a U.S. Open Cup, goalkeeper of the year. Um, again, middle of the pack on clean sheet percentage, 10% of his saves in PKs, third highest save percentage ranking, and 6th highest career saves. So 73.2% and 1,223. A second place finish and a fourth place finish. Really big in the ideas of the U.S. Open Cup and uh, the supporter shield for the crew in San Jose. Uh, I gave him 8. I think it's a good spot for him. I think that he's somebody that people maybe sleep on a little bit, but like I said, him and Reese were always there as people that I admired as a goalkeeper growing up. And the numbers back it up too. This isn't a we interviewed him so we put him on type of thing. The numbers back him up, right?
Yeah, honestly, it feels like it feels tough putting him at 8 because I look at a few of his seasons across his career and I'm like, he was so good.
Yeah.
And we have him 8th on the list, which is crazy.
Yeah, but if you look comparatively to, every other goalkeeper that's been out there, it's not a bad rank.
No, definitely not.
Instead, I'll let you go 7.
All right, 7, I have gone with Tony Miola. A lot of the stuff that you had mentioned already before. 2000 season was unreal. Greatest goalkeeper season of all time, second best MVP season of all time. And outside of that, I think there were maybe like 1 or 2 seasons where he actually had strong numbers as well. But, like you said, he just wasn't at that 2000 level like he was that one season. But considering how strong and impressive that one season is, that's what bumped him up a little bit more for me to put him at 7. He was in my top 10 list 9 seasons, 1 supporter shield, 1 MLS Cup during those 9 seasons. I included him, 1 goalkeeper of the year. Obviously, in the same season, he got MVP. I think that one season alone is what drove me to put him a little bit higher in my list because considering he put up a record that is still yet to be broken.
Gotcha. It looks like we're just flip flopping players at this point.
We're close. We're close on a lot of
Yeah,
players.
we're not super far off just yet. Number 7, El Goat, Luis Robles. Like I said, I wasn't super upset with number 10. I think you pointed out a lot of good points. For me, he played here 9 years. He won 3 supporter shields, 3 of the biggest trophies in the league. every third, I mean, it wasn't every third year, but on average, every third year he won. And actually, he was only here 8 years for Red Bull. He spent that last year in Miami. So 3/8 of his years, he won the biggest trophy in the league. Follow that up with the goalkeeper of the year that he got, regardless of whether you think it was strong or weak or whatever, because I didn't ask, and I never will, because I just don't care. The Ironman record is still phenomenal to me. I mean, outfield player, goalkeeper, doesn't matter. 183 straight games is something that's worth talking about. Uh, I didn't count this in my thing, but he also won the 2014 Save of the Year. I just thought that was a cool thing to put in, but because they only started doing that in 2009, I'm not like factoring it in. I just anecdote. Um, maybe a bit of bias because I've watched it happen versus the others where I'm just kind of looking at what they did. But I know what he gave to Red Bull and why his impact directly led to the trophies that we won. Um, some of what he did was unreal. Um, some of his numbers here again, 273 games, 183 of them in a row, eighth in clean sheet ranking percentage at 30%. So 30% of the games that he played, he kept the clean sheet in. However, he had a low save percentage. He was only at 67.1 save percentage, which basically meant that when he was on, he was on. But when he was left out to dry, he was left out to dry. Um, Middle of the pack in saves as well, um, low time in the league, low number of saves with a good defense in front of him, sure. But the big thing that put him higher for me than the others in his 9 years in the league, 4 of those 9 years, he was considered a top 4 goalkeeper in MLS, whether it be goalkeeper of the year, second, third, or fourth place. That's impressive to do in such a short amount of time. So that's one of the things that pushed him higher for me.
You can call it bias, but I think considering you watched him so often, I would also say that if anybody's to make a call on exactly how much of an impact he had, it would be you. So
Fair,
I trust your opinion on it.
fair. You want to go to 6?
I feel like we're getting in dangerous territory now.
I
Where
say now
if
now we're
we
getting
don't
to
have
yell
the same
territory.
top six, like the same, it doesn't have to be same order, but if we
But
if
the
we have
people need
different
to be the same.
players, then it's like, wow, we really had the difference there. Six for me, I've gone with Andre Blake. I think Andre Blake is he's a phenomenal goalkeeper. I think by the time he is done, he's going to be well in that conversation for the best of all time. The reason I have him a little bit lower right now is because I just think he hasn't had enough time compared to some of the guys above. I've had him on my top 10 list for 6 seasons, in which he won 3 goalkeeper of the years, which is the most in the league's history, and he's got 1 supporter shield. I think a few more seasons for me, he's easily in that top 3 conversation. And I think by the time he hangs it up, I think he's in that conversation for number 1. But just considering I think he still has a few more years left and a few more years to add some more stats to his already incredible resume, I have him a little bit lower on my list at 6.
Think the I so a little bit lower than where I had it. So and it hurt me because I had him there originally. By the way, that's why when you said that, I kind of leaned back. So I was like, all right, that makes me feel better that I thought about things like that. He has the same amount of years as Luis Robles. There's another person on there we haven't talked about yet, who I'm hoping you talk about. Donovan Ricketts only played 7 years in the league. Tony Miola only made it to 11. So it's not like he's got 9. He's at 9 years in the league. Now he might have only played he might have been a backup for 3 of those years. But he's got the amount of time that a lot of these other guys have, or he's getting close to it. What I will say for that perspective is I think 6 is okay. I just think the reasoning behind it is a little iffy.
Well, it depends on who you have ahead of him. Like, I think the guys, and I'd have to double check it because I don't think I tracked the total number of years they've been playing, but I think the guys ahead of him have played a few more seasons than him. Like, yes, he's comparative to some other guys like Ricketts, like you said, and Robles, which I have him higher than them because I think he's a better goalkeeper in terms of MLS numbers. And I think he will be better than the guys that are above him right now, but I just think a few more seasons and he'll definitely be above them for me.
It's always tough with guys who are here right now because what are they going to turn into, right? So the way I thought about it was if I stopped it right now, if tomorrow was his last day, where would he fit all time? That's the way I looked at it. And to me, 6 is okay. I think it's a little low. That's all I'm saying. And
Yeah, but that's harsh to just be like, oh, if I stopped it right now, because then that's not fair to him, because he's got seasons more
well,
where all these other guys got to play throughout their entire career, but
not
Blake has
sure,
his
but
career
you're out here saying that. Well, I couldn't put him higher because I think in due time he's going to climb higher. But I think that's a little bit unfair as well because if you think he's going to get there, then that means he's already at a level maybe higher than what you have him at. And I think you knocked him down because he's still playing.
I think if he retired tomorrow, then this is where I'd have him around. I might be willing to move him a little bit higher, but if he retired tomorrow, I think he'd be behind a few guys still because they had a longevity while maintaining numbers similar to what Blake did, like doing it over more seasons than what Blake did. I mean, I knock on wood, I do not want to see Andre Blake retire anytime soon. I hope he puts in another 10 years because I think he's phenomenal. Uh, so I genuinely do think that he will be in that conversation at the top of the list by the time he's done.
I agree with you. I just think I feel like in your voice it sounded like you knocked them down. You knocked him down because he's still playing. That's the way I heard it from you.
I guess it's like if he were to retire right now, I just I don't know if he would have the numbers and the longevity for me to bump him up ahead of a few of the guys above him in my list.
Okay. For me at 6, as I'm very good at Twitter. So I keep getting all these updates about people commenting on my tweets and stuff. And our friend at Worm Burner Podcast replied to us. So just sharing my thoughts. But
Uh-huh.
at 6, I got Joe Cannon. 15 seasons, Colorado, Galaxy, San Jose, Vancouver. Dude kept the ball out of the net. Again, another guy who did his job. MLS Cup, 2 goalkeeper of the years. He showed out everywhere he went. Every time he went somewhere, he was still in the conversation to start and in the conversation to be a top goalkeeper. One might say he's a bit of an MLS journeyman. It's a podcast reference for our friend Dax McCarty. We're gonna get him on the pod one day. That's a goal.
Yeah.
Him and Luis together.
Together? That's a big
yeah.
goal.
359 games across the 4 teams that he played for, 95 clean sheets, putting him in the bottom third of the clean sheet percentage with 26.5, 12.5% PK saves. But outside of the spot, he was a good shot stopper. 3rd out of 30 in the saves category with almost 1,400. And then 8th in save percentage at 72.2. What really put him a bit higher for me, again, not top 5 because of some of the things we just mentioned. In his 15 years, he had 2 goalkeeper of the years, 3 second place finishes, and 2 fourth or higher, meaning that he was a top 5 goalkeeper for half the time that he was in here on multiple different teams. So his quality didn't matter where he played. It wasn't like he had a good defense in front of him or he was on a super team where nobody attacked him. Wherever he went, he was doing the job and put into the conversation of the top 5 goalkeeper, which I think is important.
Okay. I'm going to reserve my thoughts again.
Yikes.
Spoiler. Number 5, shall we?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. At 5, I've gone for Pat Onstad. So I think, oh, we matched again?
Go on.
Yeah. So Pat Onstad, honestly, in terms of just looking at if I went season by season, like if I just matched everybody to the same number of seasons included on my list, Pat Onstad would, I almost feel like, be in the argument for number 1. He was so good when he was playing, but, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe some of the data here is off. His first year in the league was at age 35. So he got a super late start in the league and really only had 8 seasons from at least what's on FBref, where he was playing significant minutes. There was a ninth season where he played like 3 games for DC, which I'm not even going to count. 7 of those 8 seasons, I had him in the top 10. And a majority of those seasons, he was very high in my top 10. He had, in the 7 seasons, I included him on the list. He had a supporter shield, 3 MLS Cups, and 2 Goalkeeper of the Years. Absolutely phenomenal during his surprisingly shorter time here than I expected. And the reason that I put him above Blake, because if we're talking seasons, they're pretty comparable in terms of amount of time played here, is because he has the team trophies where Blake doesn't, at least right now. Ansa has 1 supporter shield and 3 MLS Cups, whereas Blake had 1 supporter shield and still had comparable goalkeeper of the year numbers, even though Blake has 1 extra. So I think Blake will pass him probably, honestly, by even the end of this season. I think Blake will be above him in my list. But considering how much silverware Pat Onstad has right now compared to Blake, I put him slightly above.
Okay. The silverware, I factored it in, but it was tough for me to weigh a lot on that, right? You looked at back to back with Houston and the 03 San Jose team, plus a supporter shield with the 05 San Jose team. Again, I didn't watch then because I was 6 and 8, and I haven't gone back to rewatch. However, I know about the Brad Davises of the world. I know about that whole Houston team. And then you also had the San Jose team at the time was, I believe that was Landon Donovan. So a ton of good talent around him. It's not like he himself and him pulled that out on his own. However, I do factor it in because he only spent 7 years in MLS. This is one of the guys that I mentioned that Andre Blake has spent more time in here for. 2 goalkeeper of the years, the first ever save of the year award. Cool. Also unrelated, the goalkeeper for the last non-MLS team to win U.S. Open Cup. He was a Rochester Rhinos goalkeeper in 99.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, nice. Fun fact. 243 games, middle of the pack in clean sheets, 21% save percentage on penalties, middle of the pack in saves and save percentage, 15th to 13th in all those categories. But what really set it apart for me, 2 goalkeeper of the year awards in 7 years, 2 second place finishes, a 3rd place and a 4th place. Oh, hold on. 2, 4, which means 6 of his 7 years, he was a top 5 goalkeeper in the league. It hurt me to put him. It hurt me to put him at 5, It hurt me to, like, what brought it down was the fact that he did have bang average numbers based on what I was looking at. But if we cut it to just the people who were in the honorable mention / goalkeeper, like top 10 list, I gotta think he's probably up there in top 4, top 3. So that's what got him up there. But for me, the bang average numbers on paper is what brought him down.
Yeah,
but I'll let you run to. Oh, go ahead.
Imagine Pat Onstad had a full, I want to say a full career in MLS on par with like Joe Cannon, let's say, like in terms of just number of seasons. I think he'd be in that conversation for number 1, if not number 1, like clear and outright. The fact that you just mentioned that 7 out of the 8 seasons he was a finalist for goalkeeper of the year, that's outrageous. That's insane.
Yeah, it's something that you probably won't ever see again. Now, again, what does that go into with? Was he involved in that just because he was on a bunch of teams that were winning? Right, with those numbers, that makes me think like, oh, he was a goalkeeper of the year finalist because his team won back-to-back MLS Cups and he came from a team that won supporter shield or an Open Cup. again, things I wasn't around for, things I'm just guessing. Our listeners can let us know otherwise.
Yep. 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 Shall we go to number 4?
Go right on.
All right, number 4 for me, a guy you just previously mentioned. I've got Joe Cannon. So for me, Joe Cannon, like you said, I don't want to tack on too much because I think you covered it pretty well. Phenomenal career, very long career, played on a number of squads. So, like you said, yeah, you can't just use like the excuse of, oh, he has a really strong defense in front of him. One of the goalkeepers towards the top that I kind of group into this conversation of, okay, strong numbers, plus he played a ton of games over like a number of seasons in this league. That's kind of the reason I had him above Onstad and Blake, is because it just in sheer numbers rather than just like per 90 or per season, he has much more than them because he's played so many more seasons than them. And while that should definitely be taken into account, if you look at it season by season, I do want to also give credit for being able to play for such a long time and have that longevity. Like you mentioned for Luis Robles and that Ironman record that he has, and being able to play so many consecutive games. Like, it should definitely be considered if you're just kind of looking at a season by season basis, like a guy that's only played 6 seasons versus someone who's played 14. But credit should also be due to a guy that is able to play at a high level for so many seasons. So he was on my top 10 list 9 times, in which he had 2 goalkeeper of the years. I believe he had a season where he was a finalist for the MVP award, and he has an MLS Cup. So a little bit lower than the guys ahead of him, because for me, the seasons he was on here, the silverware wasn't really high. I mean, individual awards, obviously getting 2 is fantastic, but only 1 MLS Cup is a bit lower than the guys I have ahead of him. But yeah, his longevity is what put me above. What made me put him above Pat Onstad and Andre Blake.
Yeah, we're just flip flopping people because number 4, I've got current Philadelphia Union goalkeeper Andre Blake, who you had at 6, where I had Joe Cannon. Hit 3 goalkeeper of the year awards in like 5 years, or was it 1, 2 in 7 years? 7 years. All right, so a little bit more spread out than I thought. However, 3, it's more than anybody else has ever had, regardless of how many years you played, regardless of how many teams you played on. He won 3 of them. That hasn't been done ever. Right there, to me, that's an instant argument that he could be at least top 3, maybe even number 1. People can argue that, and I would hear him out. But I do feel weird putting somebody who hasn't finished their career that high. However, he's definitely top 5 for me. He's been in the league 9 years already. It feels like I remember him being drafted yesterday. 3 goalkeeper of the years in 9 years. Supporter Shield. 234 games, 32.5% clean sheet percentage. 33% every third game. Clean sheet. Top 5. 27% PK save percentage. He's low on the number of saves and the save percentage. 674, again, only in 9 years with a good defense in front of him. 70.8%. That's 14. On the list, so right in the middle. 3 goalkeeper of the years we mentioned. 2 more second place finishes, so that's 5. And no more outside of that. But 5 of his 9 years, more than half the time he's been playing for, he's been a top 2 goalkeeper. Top 2, not a top 5. He's been a top 2 goalkeeper for more than half of the time he's been here. Based on, again, I don't know how those guys are picked, but that right there bumps him higher than Cannon for me, because it wasn't top 5. It wasn't anything like that. His top 5 in clean sheet percentage, and he's more than half of his time in the league so far, he's a top 2 goalkeeper every season. And then again, doing what nobody else has done, 3 goalkeeper of the year.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you too much on it. I mean, he's phenomenal. He's the best goalkeeper I would say that we've seen. Um, like in terms of modern day MLS, he's the best, and I don't think there's a conversation on that one.
Oh yeah.
Um, where do you think he'll finish by the time he's done? Considering like don't take into account like any potential injuries in the future or something like that, but do you think he'll be in that conversation for number one, or do you think it will even be a conversation by the time he's done?
Like by the time he's done, I don't think anybody else catches him. So where he's at now, he will have it for a while. However, again, goalkeepers, American soccer transfer market. I mean, we're going to get more goalkeepers, better goalkeepers here. The game's going to get better. He won't be there forever, but for a long time, I think he will end up as the number one goalkeeper in MLS history. It's
I
just good.
I was gonna say I have to agree.
Yeah, it's just like I said. I think what you're seeing is the gap between the players that are like on his level right now in terms of longevity, the Stephen Fries, the um, Tim Melia, I guess you could throw in there. Good, not Andre Blake, right? So now you have to wait for the new crop of players, the Roman Solitanos, the
Well, now, so to your point there, it's a new age MLS. I think there have been guys who would easily be in the conversation with Blake, but they get sold because we're a selling league now.
ah,
Full career Gaga Slanina in this league, I think absolutely is in the conversation with Blake. I
ooh, I
think
like that.
I think more years of Stefan and Turner in this. I don't know if they get to Blake's level. I mean, they could. But yeah, I think they'd be in the conversation as well. But as I said, it's just, it's a selling league now. So if you're good, you're sold, and you don't get to have the longevity of Blake or these other guys from the past.
Fair, and the flip side of that too is Andre Blake's nationality hurts him. European teams don't come after Jamaican players because of whatever, and we talked about that 2 years ago, I think, about the transfer rule based off of how many national or how where your national team is ranked versus how many games you've played, and then some ratio, and you need to get a work visa for a certain amount. It's a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
If he's American, he's gone like
Oh yeah,
6 years ago.
as he
So
should.
yeah,
He's good
and
enough for
absolutely,
Europe.
he's at that level, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so again, he will definitely go down as the best of the best, I think. However, probably should have been gone a long time ago, and European rules are stupid. Salary cap for Europe, hashtag salary cap for Europe,
Hashtag remove Pro from Europe.
hashtag implement the super draft in every league known to man.
What's the other hashtag? Hashtag European murder pyramid or something like that.
Yes, hashtag European nobody gets a chance pyramid. Except if you European, you need to pay $400 million a season to have a chance pyramid. All right, before we trigger enough people to click off, I think you're up at 3, aren't you?
Yes. And I will say before I go at number 3, I am absolutely willing to swap him with number 2. I keep going back and forth on these two. But at number 3, I have gone for Zach Thornton for mainly Chicago, I would say. Uh, really good numbers, slightly less of a longevity in terms of career compared to some of these other guys at the top. But numbers are phenomenal. He's right up there with them in the save percentages. He's got the most wins out of everybody in my top 6. Clean sheets are a little bit low, but I don't want to knock him too much on that one because he was also second highest shots on target against. So it seems like his defense kind of hung him out to dry. In terms of my list, I had him on my list in the top 10 8 times, in which he had 1 Supporter Shield, 1 MLS Cup, and 2 Goalkeeper of the Years. He ranked really highly in terms of average points per season. I included him on my top 10, meaning he was at the top very often when I included him. I think that he had a couple of seasons, I think, with injuries that I don't believe he was on my list, but when he was included in there, he was phenomenal. But like I said at the start, I am open and willing to have a conversation about maybe flipping him a little bit higher with my number 2. Because I flipped him. I originally had him at 2 and I flipped him down to 3 right before I did this.
You're making me think. You're making
I
me.
really hope at this point we have the same top 3. I can't imagine we don't.
I can't
It'd be
imagine we don't. But
ludicrous.
the top three was the toughest one because
It is. You can flip them
you can
anywhere.
flip all of them all over the place, and it all depends on what you weigh on most.
So here's the thing for me. I originally had him higher because I thought his numbers were better than my number 2 guy. But when FBref has this really cool comparison tool. So I put in all of my top 6 players and I sorted just for MLS stats. And so I'm looking at the goalkeeping numbers per 90 for each of the guys in my top 6. And Thornton and my number 2 actually were very similar in a lot of stats. And because the other guy played more, I swapped them. But it's tough. I'm open to switching him.
I'm gonna get so much hate. All right, I'm gonna move on from that.
Who we got at 3?
At number 3, I've got Kevin Hartman. 17 seasons, and I know he's your number 2 because
Do
I
you?
know who you have at 1, and I don't have him at 1, and it hurt me so bad not to put him at 1. 17 seasons for El Gato, LA Galaxy, The Wiz, FC Dallas, and Metro. 2 MLS Cups, Supporter Shield, 2 US Open Cups, 0405 double, 99 goalkeeper of the year. 465 games, 133 clean sheets, 28.6%. That's 14th out of 30, bang average. 13% PK save percentage, whatever. Second most saves, 1649. Seventh best save percentage, 72.2. 1 goalkeeper of the year, joined by 2 seconds and 2/3, and a 4th. I think what set me apart on all of this, as I mentioned, the one thing that I weighed more than the others, it was how often were you at the top? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So he had 10 seasons where he wasn't a top 5 goalkeeper based on those rankings. The others were either better in stats or better in that comparison based on how long they were at the top. So he goes to 3. Great goalkeeper. We know he's legendary, historical. Everybody loves him, as they should. I put him at 3 because I think the other 2 should go higher.
Okay. I mean, obviously I have him higher on my list, so I'm gonna
Really?
I'm not gonna share my thoughts on that one yet.
Share him right now because I know he's at 2.
All right, well, shall we go with number 2 then?
Go to 2.
At number 2, I've got Nick Rimando.
Yes.
You're not alone in that.
Yes. I'm not the only one.
Yes.
Not the only one.
Can we just say for the fact, because
Oh
I
my
know RSL
God.
fans are going to come for our head. All right.
I know.
Nick Rimando is incredible.
Oh,
Seriously,
fantastic.
he's unreal. The man played over 46,000 minutes in MLS. That is unreal. 514 appearances. And honestly, I feel like the stigma with Rimando is that he played a really long period of time, but his numbers were like good, not great. But looking at this comparison tool, I think that's completely wrong. That's what made me flip him. I actually originally had him at 3 and I had Thornton at 2. And I flipped him because Rimando basically had just as good stats, but he did it over 18,000 more minutes. Or sorry, no, he did it over 20,000 more minutes than Thornton did. Rimando has a 74.4 save percentage according to this, which is phenomenal. It's joint 3rd best on my top 6. Saves was a bit lower. He just didn't face as many shots. He had good defense. Clean sheet percentage, he was number 2 behind Andre Blake on here. His numbers were really good, and he did it over an insanely long period of time. That, for me, easily puts him in the conversation with the top 3. It's what ultimately put him ahead of Thornton for me because he played so long, because their numbers were pretty similar. I had him. I had him on my top 10 list 16 times. So for me, 16 seasons out of MLS's history, which I think is over 50% of MLS's history, I've had him as a top 10 goalkeeper in the league, which is unreal.
Yep.
In those 16 seasons, he had one Supporter Shield and two MLS Cups. Absolutely shockingly, no goalkeeper of the years. Although, and I feel like I've said this a million times now, and I will die on the hill. He should have been goalkeeper of the year in 2010, and it's unreal that he wasn't, let alone even a finalist. Uh, but yeah, honestly, an incredible career. But I had him slightly below my number one, which is kind of obvious now, but I'll still hold off on talking about it.
I feel like I need to remind you because I know you're going to do it. Alex Mawil is not a goalkeeper. You cannot put him at one. I know you want to, but you cannot.
Alex Muil's at 0. He is
Uh,
he is
he is
above
he
one.
is he is above. He transcends above reality.
He transcends
Um,
above number one.
my line is my first line in this is at two. It's Nick Rimando. I'm sorry, RSL fans, don't get mad at me. And I add it's all MLS's fault. Him not having a goalkeeper of the year had to drop him. I'm sorry, but I'm not that sorry. In 21 years, two MLS Cups and a Supporters Shield. Massive 553 games, 168 clean sheets, seventh in the percentage ranking at 30.4, 25% PK save rate, 22 penalty saves.
That's crazy. Wow,
It was
I
insane.
didn't know about that one.
Yeah, 22. The next closest is Tim Melia with 11. The
I
most
mean, it helps when
saves.
you play like 50,000 minutes in
Correct.
MLS.
The most saves. That's why I always compare the most saves and the saves percentage. Most saves, but also fourth best save percentage, 72 point. Second place in goalkeeper of the year three times and fourth or higher twice. So 5 of his 20 years, 20% is him as a top five goalkeeper, and the rest are just or 21 years, right? So less than 20%. So that's what knocked him down for me is he was there for so long. His numbers look great on the surface, but you take it an inch deeper and it's good. It's great, but it's not the best of the best. I feel like somebody with those numbers is a national team starter for his entire life, right? You're looking at this with the number of saves and the save percentage and clean sheets and all this stuff. He only played for the national team 22 times. Be that what it may. Um, again, if he wins goalkeeper of the year in 2010, I think he's won. I think that flips it for me. But not having that there, he just was really good at his job. He wasn't anything above and beyond, which I know is wrong. Like I know he was above and beyond. He was fantastic. He was very good. Another one of our short goalkeeper kings that we love on this podcast. I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. And I know this ruins any chance we have of getting him on for an interview because he will never do that now that we have slandered his career. All right.
Well, one can still hope. I think it's kind of obvious who we each have at one.
Yes,
Unless you've
Alex
unless you've
Alex
thrown an
Mawil we go.
absolute like out of the blue number one in here, which would be outrageous. But I'd be kind of here for seeing the reaction. So if you want to change your pick, I'm willing to give you some time.
Go ahead.
All right, for me, number one, I've got Kevin Hartman. For me, it was a conversation at the top three. I think similar to you, Thornton, Rimando, Hartman. And for me, Hartman was like a combination of the two. He obviously didn't have the exact same longevity as Rimando, but he had very long career. So to me, he had the longevity of Rimando while still having the incredible seasons like Thornton did. And one thing that I looked at in making this was there were 4 seasons for Hartman where he played over 1,500 minutes, where he had over an 80% save percentage, which is insane. That's insanely high. One of which was 2003, where he had 155 saves while having an 81.6% save percentage. That's stupid. That's crazy. Like even Miola had around the same save percentage. I think he had 30 less saves in his MVP season. Um, he was, I think he had a couple of seasons where he didn't. It looks like he didn't play like full seasons. He had 18 starts, 20 starts, 11 starts. But even in those times, he had ridiculous numbers. Um, he made my list 15 times for top 10, so one less than Nick Rimando. In that time, he had two supporter shields, two MLS Cups, and one goalkeeper of the year. It was super tight in terms of points between Hartman and Rimando. And genuinely, if Rimando gets that goalkeeper of the year in 2010, it's like a 2 point difference between the two of them. Like it's super tight. Um, but yeah, I thought Hartman was like kind of the a little bit of the best of both worlds between Thornton and Rimando.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't go as deep into what I wanted to go as deep as you, but I have a life and I've seen the grass before. So
I haven't.
one day you'll try that. No, I
Maybe.
wanted to go season by season, but I felt like it wasn't going to change a lot. It was just going to cause a lot more stress to my life, and I don't really need that. I probably need a little bit more, but not that much more. So I just stood away from it, and like I said, for me, number one, clear as day, Michael just spurning from Seattle.
Yeah,
All 2 years of of his season here. No,
he made my table.
he's on my list.
He got 10 points for me out of 2 seasons.
Um, Zach Thornton at one for me. Again, might be a little bit of recency bias that we covered a lot of Chicago's uh, early history, and he is smack dab in the middle of all of it. On those double, on the expansion season double, he is one of the main reasons they did it. He was fantastic in the PK shootouts and things like that. Um, 15 seasons, Chicago, Colorado, Chivas, and Red Bull. Won an MLS Cup, three U.S. Open Cups, did the double in 98, comeback player of the year in 09, and two goalkeeper of the year awards. Only got 370. I say only, right? Compared to the 550 that Rimando had. Only had 317 games, but had 95 clean sheets, ranking him ninth among the 30 that I analyzed at 30%. Um, Better than average shot stopper, ninth in saves and save percentage at 1,109 and 71.5. 98 and 09 goalkeeper of the year seasons were joined by two second place, a third place, and two fourth place or higher finishing, meaning that for almost half his career, I think it was one season short of half or half a season short of half, he was considered a top five goalkeeper. And that's what did it for me. Not only did he do it for a long time, but he kept those numbers high for the entirety of or for at least half of his career, right? So Kevin Hartman, two more seasons, uh, you know, less clean sheet percentage, uh, better save percentage and more saves, but again, work that into what it was. The save percentage was really close. The more saves came with more seasons. Less goalkeeper of the years, same number of second place, two more third place, and one less fourth place. So Thornton did it with less seasons more frequently than he did. And Thornton, again, Rimando, great numbers over a long time with less impact consistently. He had a couple of really good years, um, but not the consistency that Thornton had. Because as you mentioned, injury took him out for a season or two, so you can drop that down to 14 or 13 season. That number looks even better. Um, yeah, I think that is that. Blah, blah, blah. I think that Zach Thornton is a top three goalkeeper with the other two. Where you'd like to put them is outside of my level of care because I think, as we mentioned at the start, you really got your top three, maybe your top five. You've got your middle three, maybe your bottom five or your bottom three, and then everybody else. Your honorable mentions can get worked in there. Maybe it's like a bottom seven for the bottom three spots, but these three, Rimando, Thornton, Hartman, far and away top three in history at this moment. Philadelphia fans, calm down. Jesus, I can hear him screaming already.
I'm honestly absolutely shocked. I think we had out of just the players in our top 10, I think we had one difference.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing. I think you put Ricketts in and I put Reese in, and everybody else was still in there at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. And we had the same groupings pretty much too.
Yeah,
I
like I
mean, we
said, it
flipped them
wasn't super
around,
far
but
off.
yeah.
It
I
just
was
tells us we
expecting
didn't.
more yelling. Now
That just
I don't have an intro clip now.
that just tells us it was not hard enough. We need to do a tougher one next time. If you've got any ideas on what top tens you want to see, let us know so we can put those to the front of our list because they're probably already on our list. But we'd love to hear them anyway. Um, and make sure you're following along. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you agreed. If you didn't agree, make sure you let us know why. Because I don't want to just hear no, you're wrong. I want to hear no, you're wrong because so that I can come back and say no, you're wrong because, and then we can fight on Twitter because that's all that matters. Make sure you're following us everywhere you get your podcast so you know when the next one goes live. We are going to MLS history, which Connor, can you remind us again where we're going?
Well, Andrew will be going to tell us about Eddie Gavin in goal and Bob Bradley's fourth sub.
Such a good story.
And I will be talking about the 2003 US Open Cup, specifically the Chicago Fire.
Another one, huh? I believe our next top 10 is going to be with a very special guest. We won't spoil it here, but make sure you stick around in our following so you know the next time that goes live, and you'll be sure to see it. It's a very familiar face, so should be a very exciting one. Much more yelling in that one. I'm almost confident there's much more yelling on that one.
Yeah, but it's only going to be at me. You won't yell at our guest.
No, of course not, because I like our guests. I don't like you. We've been
That's
through
not
this.
fair.
We've been through this. If we get Adam back on as a guest, I'll yell at Adam. How about that?
We should get Adam back on.
We should.
For
One top 10 all-time
Yeah.
MLS team. He's gonna put Zlatan 9 times.
Top,
He's gonna put
top 10
Giovinco
Zlatan moments in MLS.
He's gonna put Giovinco at Cam. He's gonna do a 4-2-2-2. Both cams are Giovinco. Every other position is Zlatan, and then Alex Mawil in goal, and he's gonna call it a day. Where am I? Make sure you go follow us on all forms of social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube, where we post all of our clips all the time. And you can interact with us there. And again, just make sure you're following, sharing, and giving us your ideas. And that's all that matters to us. So thanks so much again. We'll see you next time on the next episode of the Designated Players Podcast. See ya.